Congressman Schiff, I fully honor your outrage at the Republicans' abuse of their positions as chairman of committees who are now pretending, they are pretending to have jurisdiction over the Manhattan district attorney. I am just jaded enough and live far enough outside of the House of Representatives that I look at it as an utter absurdity. There will not ever be a subpoena that they send to the Manhattan district attorney that will be responded to in any way, not for documents, not for testimony, not for anything. Absolutely nothing will happen by what they're doing. And so that's my view of it. But I agree that it is important to keep the notion of the ideal of what these committees are supposed to do in front of Americans to understand just how wild and out of control this kind of behavior is.
It's important to set a baseline and to help, share with the country just how dangerous and absurd this is, just how much this is a continuation of the Trump playbook of investigate the investigators, discredit the investigation when there's a legitimate investigation or prosecution of a criminal or a potential criminal, and he's a member of their party or their party leader. It is, in their view, by definition, somehow illegitimate. That's not how the rule of law works. If we're going to be a nation of laws, we can be no respecter of persons. That means that the law has to apply equally to everyone. And what they really want is the unequal application of the law. They want immunity for their party leader. They're positing without any evidence that this is somehow a political prosecution. They don't know anything about what the witnesses testified before in the grand jury. Look, if the Manhattan grand jury believes there's probable cause to believe Donald Trump committed a crime and prosecutors believe they can prove that crime, it is their obligation to go forward. One thing we have seen with Donald Trump is if you do not hold him accountable, he will go on to do worse and worse and worse. It's a dangerous idea in the abstract. It's even more dangerous in the concrete case of Donald Trump to set a different standard for former presidents.
Well, the Stormy Daniels case is the perfect example of what you're talking about. If not held accountable, he'll go on to do worse and worse. You can show on the calendar of Donald Trump's life that after he paid off Stormy Daniels, he did indeed go on to do worse and worse and worse. And after Michael Cohen was prosecuted during the Trump presidency for those crimes, and Donald Trump never faced any consequences, no censure from the Congress, no impeachment process over that issue, he then went on to do worse and worse and worse things involving blackmail with Ukraine, and then, of course, the January 6th insurrection.
There's nothing worse that you can do regarding someone who has no ethical compass than lead them to believe that they will never be held accountable. And this has been the problem with Donald Trump. He has lied his entire life, but now those lies have enormous consequences. And if it should be that he gets the impression, or that others in positions of responsibility get the impression that by virtue of their position, they can lie with impunity. They can lie about hush money payments. They can lie about the retention of classified documents. They can lie about coercing a nation to smear your opponent. They can lie about elections and cause violent attacks on the Capitol. There's just no end to it. There has to be accountability. We in the January 6th committee tried to bring about accountability to the degree Congress can, but if there's going to be justice, that's going to have to be delivered by prosecutors.